1. I work in a restaurant that's on a holiday park. However, we do get a lot of customers who just live there all year round. I love working there, as the customers are generally lovely and the team I work with are the best. However, there's always some bad with the good, and my bad takes the shape in the form of a middle-aged, balding man. I do know his real name as he is a regular, however we will nickname him Dickwagon for the sake of privacy. Now to give you some character background, Dickwagon hates women. We're talking full-on misogynist who thinks women are better when they're quiet kind of guy. If you also guessed that he's divorced and hates his ex-wife, then you would be completely correct. To be totally honest, I loathe this guy, entirely loathe. This is due to the fact that I've seen him hurl abuse at female staff members for the crime of telling him the total of his drink, to being so rude to another staff member that he outright refused to serve him. Our owner has a "the customer is always right" mentality. Plus he sinks a lot of money into the bar, which is why he is still welcome. However, it is not my job to judge the customers, so I paste on that smile we all know so well, and always treat him the same way I treat all customers. But this isn't good enough for dear Dickwagon. Oh no. Our first tale is from a very late shift on a Friday night. One of the bartenders I work with has known me for a little over 3 years, and we get on super well. Dickwagon has stopped to ask him about me as he had spotted the wedding ring on my finger. I get mistaken for 17 a lot, even though I wouldn't be able to serve if I was. Lovely bartender joked about me getting married so young, and we thought that was the end of it. Dickwagon calls me over to start asking questions about my partner. How did he trap me? And inquired if I was pregnant. I brushed it all off as a joke, and just thought he maybe had a strange way of delivering it. Dickwagon called me over again later that evening to say the following.
"You're really beautiful."
Thanks, creepy dude, I don't know.
"But I bet you'll be divorced by 25. Really pretty, but I know it'll be married now and divorced at 25.
Super rude, right? I just brushed it off again as his weird humor and went about my shift as he was leaving anyway. Second story. Our second story was 2 days after the first. As I mentioned, Dickwagon, for reasons I am sure are completely lost on all of us, is divorced. He and his ex share a child, and that child comes to stay with him over the summer. The child is an absolute sweetheart who I love to serve, always smiling and bubbly, puts a smile on your face during a tough shift kind of kid. Dickwagon had decided to get completely totaled that evening, and let said child draw all over the table. Not the kid's fault. If their parent doesn't tell them it's wrong, how can they know? Dickwagon had also ordered a couple of ice cream cones and put them on our lovely varnished tables until they were a sticky puddle. To say I wasn't overly pleased to be cleaning the table would be an understatement. But we've all had worse, and I got to work with scrubbing at the crayon. Dickwagon starts apologizing by saying,
"Sorry if anyone drew on the table."
To which I said, "It's fine, don't worry about it." But since Dickwagon was drunk, he didn't hear me. Dickwagon then spent the next couple of minutes lecturing me on how I need to learn to speak properly, and that I was mental for not talking. I was calm and replied that I had said it was fine and not to worry. I just may have said it a bit quiet, but this reasoning wasn't good enough for Dickwagon. I ended up just ignoring him while I cleaned the table because it was nearly 2 a.m, and to be honest, putting up with that really wasn't worth it for minimum wage. Put this encounter down to the amount he'd drunk, and just hoped he would be too embarrassed to mention it in the future, or just wouldn't mention it at all. Third story. This story takes place 3 days after the last one. I was having a good shift working the bar with 2 of my favorite work buddies when Dickwagon walks in. Now at this point I had only worked here a month and was worried about customers complaining in case I lost my job. So I put the last 2 encounters behind me and began serving Dickwagon. He seemed to be in a better mood than the last 2 times and was almost polite to me. I thought this was great. He clearly didn't remember the other evening, and I could just enjoy my shift in peace. That was until he gets to about his 5th drink. He calls me over because his child would like a drink. What can I get you? Diet Coke, please.
She can't hear you. Speak louder.
Would you like a small Diet Coke or a big Diet Coke? This is what I say to kids rather than half a pint or a pint, because I find it makes more sense to them. A small one, please. I'll go get that for you. Went and got the drink for the child and brought it back over. At this point, Dick Wagon was talking on his phone. Now, Dick Wagon never sets up a tab for himself. Instead, he pays for each drink as he goes. But he will always suddenly be busy when it comes time to pay. I printed off the receipt, and when he came back he got angry because he had wanted more drinks. I said not to worry about it. I'd get the other drinks for him and print a new bill. He then said he was only joking and didn't actually want anything else. I laughed it off. You all know the laugh. And he paid for the child's drink. A couple of minutes later he calls me over to say he actually did want drinks and I had ignored him.
I did want to actually get served tonight, you know.
Sorry, what can I get for you? He listed off what he wanted and I got to work on the bar. Now, just a side note, I really struggle with anxiety. So sometimes I can misread the situation and think it's worse than it actually is. I felt like this interaction had been a bit tense and awkward, but put it down to anxiety. I came back over with his drinks, friendly smile firmly in place, and tell him what the total is. Dick Wagon takes his cue to be good old Dick Wagon and starts getting chatty.
You know, it's so nice to see you actually speaking. I'm glad to see you finally learned how to interact with people. It's nice to hear you actually speak, you know, like a person.
It was at this moment that I just stopped giving a fuck anymore. Why should I bend over backwards and constantly be polite to Dick Wagon if he can't even treat me with a shred of respect? I swiped his membership card, that's how people pay there, and went straight to one of the other bartenders. Hi, you know Dick Wagon over there? Yes? Are you okay serving them if they want anything else tonight? Because I no longer am. Holy shit, it felt so good. I know everyone wants to hear that I got him banned and my manager cussed him out, etc., etc., but it felt so satisfying to say those words. For the rest of the evening, Dick Wagon had to wait until another member of staff was free to get him a drink, as he was so unlucky as to never be able to catch my attention. You will all be glad to hear that he's come in a couple of times since then, and the staff I work with have always served him to make sure I don't have to. 2. So this actually happened today. I just got off my shift and wanted to share with you lovely folks. Today was a long day. I need to vent. I just started a new job at a fancy restaurant in a hotel in a national park. One where I get to wear a bow tie, a first for me. I love it so far, the food is great, the scenery is incredible, the customers are all on vacation, so for the most part they're just excited to be there. However, I guess it isn't completely exempt from the usual fuckery that comes with restaurants. My very first table of the day is a 3-top of 20-something French guys. They're cordial enough. I tell them our breakfast features and get their orders. Everything seems to be going smoothly. They are satisfied with the food and service, don't need anything else. I get sat a few more times, drop off their check and run to put in the order for the new table. When I turn the corner, I see them rushing out of the front door into the hotel. I think they probably left cash, but something about the way they left so quickly didn't sit well with me, so I quickly walk over to check the book, and of course it's completely empty. I get a sinking feeling in my stomach. This place holds you responsible for walkouts, and you either take a write-up for your drop being short, or you pay out of pocket. So I rush out to the lobby, look at the host and ask her if she saw where they went. She points to the door that goes to the halls of the hotel. Fuck. So I run over, open the door, and the hall is empty except for a woman walking towards me. She must have seen the panic in my eyes, and without any prompting asks, "Are you looking for those 3 boys? I saw them walking like they did something wrong. I'm a mother. I can tell these things. They're in the room at the end of the hall to the right." I thanked her profusely and ran to the end of the hall. Sure enough, I can hear them loudly speaking French through the door and laughing. So I knock on the door and one of them opens it up reluctantly. He sees me in all my bow-tied glory, probably looking more smug than I ought to be, and his face drops. I put on my best fake-ass customer service voice and say, "Did you mean to have me bill this $70 tab to your room? Because if so, I need your last name and your room number." "Well, I already have the room number, just the name will do." Oh my god, it was the most satisfying thing in the world. He gives me his last name, and actually pulled out the crinkled receipt from his backpack for me to write it on. I wanted to go back and have him sign and total the receipt, but my manager told me not to. He joked that they probably wouldn't say anything if I added a tip. But I was just happy for the experience. I'm not even a week out of training yet, but I can tell I'm going to like it here. 3. I live in a smaller town of about 15,000 plus, but the highway that runs through here connects to the bigger cities nearby, roughly 408,000 people in the city west of us, and conveniently the restaurant lies on this exact highway in the busiest part of my town. This means that since we're locally owned and operated, we're popular with the locals and have people from all over the place coming by all the time. The story begins 2.5 months after I started this job. We all have had one of those families, the oddballs where they have tons of kids, and yet they're perfectly polite and well behaved. We've also had those families where the kids are perfectly behaved angels. This will be a story about one of those families. I start my morning waking up, eating a healthy, balanced breakfast, getting some Burger King, and preparing for my 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. shift. It's the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, perfect for families to go barbecue some burgers, spend time at the lake, and have some good cookouts with friends and families. And also the perfect time for servers to make some money. It's gonna be a busy night. I grab some ibuprofen to make sure my legs aren't gonna fall off later on in the night, and it's out the door I go. Stop 1, Burger King for a sourdough ham and egg and cheese sandwich. Stop 2, work. Once I get there, I check my section, grab my pager and clock in, double checking to make sure my tables are spotless for the first of my guests. Okay, now that all that backstory is out of the way, let me introduce our cast. Me, Redstone Freak 589, your friendly neighborhood waiter college student, who also used the same username for Reddit as he did during his Minecraft phase 5 years ago. It's still a fun game to play every now and then, though. Table 52, a table of 4 guys that turned into 2. Conveniently, they know the main characters of the story. Table 42, the main antagonists of the story, 2 parents with their 3 kids. They know Table 52, who is sitting in the booth right next to them. The mom at this table is gonna be the one we talk about the most. This woman needs to control her test subjects, has raised her kids perfectly. My section this day is on one side of a major walkway, with the other side being someone else's section. It's comprised of 4 6-top booths all in a row, and across the walkway are some half-booth half-tables, both seats on the wall, chairs in the walkway. This walkway is only wide enough for the 2 servers running the 2 sections, or if your kids are running around, one server trying their best not to drop your darling angels chicken strips. Our story takes place there in Section 4. Table 52 was a pretty chill table, having a beer and some water with a burger and a steak. They walked in about 10 minutes after Table 42 was seated. It was obvious they knew Table 42 because the 4 of them, before 2 left due to personal emergencies, all walked by and patted Table 42's dad on the back. Okay, they're gonna be chatty, it's okay, it happens. I got to take Table 42's drink orders, The kids, of course, are all asking at once for Coke. Is Pepsi okay? And the parents are trying to figure out if they want alcohol at 12:30 in the afternoon to tune out the sounds of their ankle biters, or if they just want water to drown their sorrows away. I go grab their Cokes and the parents' water. They decided to take the drowning route and get their orders taken. At this point in the day, we've started to get busy, so everything is kind of blurring together and the kitchen is starting to slow down due to the inrush of tickets. Table 42's footage rang in, and after already almost running into their kids multiple times due to them being little rugrats in the walkways, their food is finally out and they're eating. Table 52 has been talking to them for a while just chilling on their lunch break. Hey y'all, how's everything tasting? Did everything come out like you expected?
Yeah, man, it's awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let me know if y'all need anything else. And that was the end of that interaction. Here's a replay of what Table 42 was like. Hey y'all, how's everything so far? We still doing good? Loading. 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 Good. Thanks. Okay guys, well that's good. Let me know if I can get you anything, or if you want dessert later on. Yeah, we can tell this is gonna be fun. Anyway, I'm in the back getting a loaf of bread for a two-top that sat down, who is unimportant to this story. I run the bread out to their table and I notice that Table 42's kids are unattended. Where are their parents? At Table 52, while their kids run amok at the table, getting steak and chicken on the floor, coloring the wood tables with red crayons, throwing napkins everywhere, yelling, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom," the entire time. I'm now unofficially their babysitter, making sure their drinks are filled and they're doing okay while their handlers, parents, are at the table next to them, ignoring them. This goes on for about 10 more minutes while I'm dealing with the two-top that was seated earlier. Bless the two older ladies there who just ordered water and soup. And this absolutely incredible three-top, a dad and his two sons, that just got sat who, despite his sons being maybe 13 or so, had the mannerism of 20-year-olds. Seriously, grade A parenting from that dad there. That table just made my day by the way his sons acted. Table 52 decides it's time to leave, so they go, meaning it's time for Table 42's bill as well. It's $72 and some change. €62, 56 pounds. They pay with a $100 bill, so I know they have tip money. I get them their boxes and their to-go drinks, and I go to deal with the other 3 tables I have. I come back about 5 minutes later to help bust the table and I grab their ticket. Oh no. Oh no. Please let there be at least $5 under those 2 ones. Oh no. Oh no. They left me $2 whole to deal with their children, clean up the steak and chicken their kids threw everywhere, babysit their kids when they left to go talk to some other people, and apparently thought that was acceptable. So thank you so much for making me realize that babysitting the results of your weak pullout game, love-making, is something to put on my anti-bucket list. 4. I have been a server in a small town in Pennsylvania, famous for hosting the Little League World Series for about 15 years, at a number of different restaurants, so I have many stories. But this one comes to mind. I had been working at a restaurant for about a year that, in my opinion, has a bit of an identity crisis. We sold everything from bar food to sushi to filet mignon, and tried to portray an upper-class environment, but were required to wear grey dicky suit button-up shirts. Think about what the guy wears that changes your oil. That's what we wore. Anyway, we had a general manager that was also the head chef, so was never able to deal with customers, therefore we had a front-of-the-house manager that was, coincidentally, GM's girlfriend and baby mother. Those two were constantly fighting with each other, which honestly was somewhat entertaining for the rest of the staff, until they started having real problems. One thing leads to another and they break up and she is moving out. But he wants her to keep working at the restaurant because they are mature enough to coexist. I think he just wanted to be able to keep an eye on her. We will call her Kay. So Kay is a moderately attractive girl, nice disposition, way out of GM's league in most of our opinions, but I digress. Because Kay is my immediate manager, and the one who hired me and a friend of mine before I began working there, we would somewhat text and discuss different things, work-related, and even got our kids together a few times. But never an inclination of anything sexual. Now their work relationship is rapidly deteriorating. By the way, GM is a vicious alcoholic. He was always caught in our cameras, filling kids' disposable cups with flavored vodka and taking them back in the kitchen at 11 a.m., leaving in the middle of his shift to run to the corner bar and slam a couple drinks. We were constantly finding empty beer bottles in the wok, tucked behind this or that. I think you get the picture. So in GM's head, Kay is seeing another guy. That's the explanation for the breakup. It couldn't be that he's an alcoholic or just an all-around rather miserable person. So Kay starts telling me that GM is making comments to her about me and her having an inappropriate relationship, and he sees the way she looks at me, etc. Fucking great. Full disclosure, I do have a reputation for being a sort of a man-whore at times, but as I said earlier, we never had the slightest incident like that. So I'm stressing and Kay keeps saying, don't worry about it, blah blah blah. Kay? If my general manager thinks I'm sleeping with his wife, I'm going to be concerned. So I leave work that night and head home. I'm sitting on my front stoop smoking a cigarette, waiting for a girlfriend of sorts to come by. And my general manager comes racing in his truck to my house, hops out, and starts demanding to see my phone so he can read all the texts and Facebook messages between me and Kay. Fuck. Now I wouldn't care, honestly, cause like I said, we don't have that kind of relationship. But there were some texts of Kay telling me stories about GM being a dick, and well, basically, just an insufferable, overwhelming douchebag. Basically just venting, and I didn't want him to see that she was saying these things about him. So I stall him and delete as much as I could, and he begins to accuse me of sleeping with her, etc. Meanwhile, my girl for the night pulls up, to see this older drunk man yelling at me about sleeping with his girlfriend, and in turn, starts having an attitude of her own towards me for obvious reasons. He ends up leaving and Kay shortly calls afterwards saying, "Why did you tell GM this and that about me, blah blah blah?" I tell her I told him nothing. He obviously just said I told him things to try to get her to admit to them, and she was dumb enough to fall for this. So basically I feel like my employment is in serious trouble. I tell Kay if I get fired for sleeping with you when I never did, you're going to owe me the most outrageous night of copulation ever. But instead, he fires her. She's devastated, crying, all very awkward and really had a terrible effect on workers' atmosphere, obviously. I also forgot to mention GM and Kay lived 2 blocks away from me until Kay moved out. Then GM lived there alone with her 2 kids, while he had custody. I managed to convince him I never had nor attempted to have any interaction with his baby mom, and he eventually believed me, and we sort of became friends, went to the bar once or twice, took our kids places, etc. About a week later, he started threatening suicide, because he was so distraught over losing Kay. So he would make these threats like, "I'm gonna hang myself in the garage," and then turn off his phone. So they, Kay, other people at the restaurant, whoever, would call me and ask me to go check on him since they knew I lived so close. Mind you, this would all take place after I worked all night, and just wanted to do my own thing. Not have to babysit my GM and make sure he didn't kill himself. I told him I'm not playing this shit with you. You tell me you're gonna kill yourself again, I'll have you committed. So he ended up getting the hint. I realized this was rather anticlimactic, but Jesus Christ, I just wanted to wait some tables and make some drinks, not be a counselor and be accused of all of the above. P.S. GM fired me a year later for an unrelated issue which was illegal. Guess making sure his toddler-aged kids didn't find his drunk ass hanging dead in their garage didn't buy me the job security that I expected. Thanks. 5. I work at a nice pizza place that is next to a bar. We have a sorta kinda partnership, meaning we deliver to the patrons as a courtesy. A really sweet woman came in to order a pizza. I'll call her Katie. She was very kind, gave me her order and tipped well. She gave me the table number, so I told her I'd bring it over when it was done. In the meantime, we got slammed. People in and out, phone ringing off the hook. Not to mention the bottom half of our oven was broken and was currently being fixed, so it slowed things down considerably. It's a small shop. Usually just me working the front and running food, pizza guy and fryer guy. No manager really, we handle ourselves. In walks Katie's boyfriend, he's furious. I didn't bring over her pizza yet. I apologize, gesture to the chaos around me. Apologize even more and hand him her pizza. He walks out mumbling obscene things about me and my restaurant. A bit passes. While on my way to deliver to the bar next door, since it slowed down, Katie's boyfriend stopped me, asked me if I was a manager. I said no. He asked for one. I said we're pretty self-sustaining, we don't need one. But you can talk to David. He's worked here the longest. I left, dropped off the food. Couldn't have been more than 4 minutes. I come back to David and Katie's boyfriend arguing. Will you stop shouting at me or do I need to call the cops? Dude, why are you being like this? Because you're shouting at her, she's just doing her job. Then you raise your voice at me? No. Our pizza wasn't delivered to us as promised, and it's your responsibility to... You have your pizza. It's a courtesy that we deliver. I'm sorry that things got crazy, but you don't get to yell at a lady like that. Now, do I need to call the cops? You're being angry right now. Inching closer to the phone. Dude, it's just a pizza. You don't need to call the cops. Exactly. It's just a pizza. Now leave, please. David grabbed me by the shoulders. I was visibly shaken. I don't like confrontation, even when I'm not directly involved. He apologized for the man and told me to shake it off. I have a lot of respect for him because he could have easily kissed his ass in the customer is always right way, but he didn't. It's nice to be in the food service industry and have your co-workers be in your corner. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 10. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, hard to believe that's 10 of these already. That kind of went by quickly. I'm very glad you guys are enjoying these so much, so I shall certainly be continuing to do them for every week I'm able to. Not sure about next Saturday at present, because I usually get these on a week-by-week basis, but we'll see what we can manage. I'm only recording this on Tuesday, and I was able to put everything together with the help of a couple of very well-timed subscriber stories, so we'll see what I can pull together for the rest of the week. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.